Firstly, I'd like to thank everyone here for joining us, and of course, our panelists who've taken the time out amongst, all your busy schedules to be here to discuss on inclusive employment. So, yeah, we can get started with a bit of introductions first. So, who would like to go first with the introductions? I'm gonna let you choose and share.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Agnes. I'm represent L'Oreal today. I lead the talent acquisition function, so it's commonly known as recruitment for many. So this is a topic that I'm very passionate about. So thank you for inviting me.
Hi everyone, I'm Pek Yun Ning. I'm the CEO and founder of SGP Foods. SGP Foods is a resource efficiency technology company that develops proprietary technologies and processes for food and climate.
I work for Infosys. So Infosys is a company that deals with technology, some of the biggest company in the world that works on technology. So I myself, I'm a sales director. I take care of 120 developers around APAC. And Infosys has got 300,000 over employees around the world. So Infosys itself is a very, very strong believer in inclusion, especially of people who are differently abled. So we have actually a good program called Infallibility, where the company actually focuses on how to support our colleagues around the world who are differently able. And to focus on them, we hire a lot of differently abled associates around the world as well. To date, our success rate is 9 out of 10. So that's just a quick introduction.
I can't apologize for the bell ringing, so I'm going to be as loud as I can. Yeah, thank you so much for your introductions. I'm actually Zora, as John just introduced me. I'm the inclusive employment recruiter with Inclus. My journey with advocacy for disability inclusion started when I became disabled 5 years ago, and I'm heavily involved in inclusion because I got to experience the challenges that people with disabilities face firsthand, and I also had the privilege of living without a disability. So today's conversation is coming from headspace of understanding that I understand the challenges of how nervous it can be not knowing where to take the first step. And now, as a person with a disability, I understand the challenges. So it's don't be too nervous. It's going to be a casual conversation. So we can get started. So everyone on the panel has participated or is participating in some form of journey towards disability inclusion in your organizations. Can each of us share with the audience on a broad level, why did your organization begin your disability inclusion journey, and how has the progress been so far?
I guess I'll take it first. Give you some time to think. Okay. So our organization realized some time back that 1 out of 6 persons has a disability. Actually, I myself included. My disability cannot be seen. It's not visible, but I do have one organ that doesn't work. So I also, like yourself, firsthand, I witnessed how my company support me in my work. So I think having realized that 1 out of 6 person, which is like 15% of the workforce, has some form of disability, it doesn't make any sense to not to support. So basically, we need actually to tap into this workforce as well. It is not us. I mean, you shouldn't look it in a way that Infosys is trying to include them, but rather that they are supporting Infosys by making us stronger by being in our workforce. I think that's how we see it.
For L'Oreal, it's been a very long journey. Since the early 1990s, we started having it as a core focus of the organization. In 2008, we started having a global policy around inclusiveness, especially on inclusive recruitment itself. We have policy that's structured around our recruitment, how do we support our employees, and also on solidarity sourcing. That's something that we enforce within the organization with our partners to ensure that we support, as Stella says, the number is actually really real. If we look around us, we don't see it, but it is a real number that we have to deal with. So as an organization, we recognize that, and it's very much part of our way of working.
Yeah, so over here at SGP Foods, we decided to give a go with inclusive employment around 2 years ago. So we started by interviewing some candidates and giving them a try. But I think, of course, that is actually the second step, right? The first step is actually being receptive and deciding to do it. So why did we choose to do it? Actually, all along growing up, I have been brought up in an environment whereby our mindset, my family, my parents, we adopt a very inclusive mindset, and inclusive goes beyond disability. I think inclusive covers many areas, and so I think it has always been part of my upbringing. But also I have people close to me who has some slight like my brother has dyslexia, so I mean we kind of incorporate it in our lifestyle growing up. It's nothing very much of particular. We don't actually really mention it, So when I got exposed to this idea of inclusive employment, we just started interviewing some people, and it worked out well for us. Yeah.
That's great to hear. I mean, I've worked closely with Yun Ning because you have taken in some of our interns that we work with. So as a person with a disability myself, I think it's great to hear that at least we're at some stage of disability inclusion. And I think for any organizations, it's a great start. I think it's having that mindset that we want to do more. We want to at least take that first step. So it's great to hear your thoughts. And for the next 45 minutes, we will be focusing on how organizations and the individuals within them can begin or progress in the disability inclusion journey. So for 45 minutes, we'll discuss on the topic, and then we'll also leave it to the audience to ask us some questions towards the ending. So this question is to all the panelists. So together with the growing momentum of organizations looking to begin or further their disability inclusion journey, our conversations with employers in the past few years has shown us that there is growing interest and growing employers who want to explore hiring people with disabilities and help with the manpower crunch. This has also reflected in an article that has been featured on Straits Times. Has this been the same for your organization? And can you share what has worked and what has not worked for your organization?
It's a very good question. Maybe I'll take that question to start off with first. I think awareness is a very first start that we do as an organization. The journey is ongoing, I would say. I don't think we are there yet. As an organization, we hire almost 1.9% of our total workforce being represented for employees with declared disability. We have a global target of 2%. We're almost there. By 2026 is kind of what we have set ourselves a goal on. And that represents something like almost 2,000 employees out of our workforce that actually have a declared disability. In where we start off is always around creating the awareness, making sure that all our leaders are trained on this awareness topic, on the bias topic as well, to make sure that whenever we are thinking about appointing a role, we take that into consideration. So that's, I would say, a very first step that we have been working on, and it's a relentless topic. Every year, we make sure that all employees goes through that same training, that same awareness, to ensure that we provide, fair and equal opportunities for all.
Yeah, so I guess for us, I can go a bit more into the specifics of how we did it, the framework. So initially, I'll be honest about this, right? Of course, I mean, we discovered my brother had dyslexia when he was quite young, around 6 or 7 years old. He's 21 now. But along the years, because I guess we found ways to cope with it. But I think we can go deeper later on how it could have been better. My initial concept as an employer when I started my company in 2020, actually when the word disability came into my head, I actually looked at disability more from a physical point of view. So it was actually through discussion with some of my colleagues that they told me that disability. Of course, I know about dyslexia, but they also helped me be aware that disability does include conditions such as autism and ADHD also. So then I've always had empathy with for people who are I think I've never really felt that I should exclude them, or I think we should be fair to everyone. So we started getting very serious about our hiring process with Inclus, and we kept an open mind. And actually, honestly, the quality of the interns are not very far from any other normal recruit. Yeah.
So Infosys is a technology company. So I explain a little bit what technology companies do. We code stuff. So as you can see, it's a very cerebral kind of work. So when it comes to physical disability, it doesn't really make much of a difference from one individual to another. So especially since COVID times, we have proven to the world that working from home is highly sustainable. So for us, as long as the person is qualified, able to do the job, the physical, if it's a physical disability, it doesn't really matter that much. Especially we have a lot of clients. Actually, Apple is my client, the one that produced the watch and the phone and the MacBook. Especially Apple, very, very inclusive. And in Singapore as well, we have lifts and ramps and far better than some other countries in the world. I think Singapore really is top notch in this sense for accessibility. So I think in this day and age, most people are very open and very helpful. So this is really the right time to give this project a big push to make it the norm, make it sustainable in the future. And I think this is the right time. We should give it a lot of focus right now.
Yes, I totally agree. I think the pandemic really made everyone realize that work from home was possible and accommodations were definitely possible. In my case, when I became disabled, it was suddenly like I was still the same person. I was just in a seated position, but then somehow people were not looking at me like I was still capable. So I think COVID and the pandemic really showed that, hey, it's just, I can do work, whether it is just in front of a screen or going into office. And I think organizations are really starting to learn more, and people with all kinds of different disabilities have different accommodations. And that's why I guess organizations like Inclus also, we're here to help encourage employers by, providing them that support and giving them more knowledge and awareness on how to support individuals with different kinds of disabilities. So I'll move on to the next question now. This question is directed more to Stella and Agnes. So Infosys and L'Oreal have presences and operations around the world, which also means that disability employments are happening across different locations. So I have two questions here. Were the efforts driven from a global level down to the local offices, or was it more ground up? And the second question is, for countries that have been slower in their disability inclusion progress, what were the challenges? So either one of you can take it.
Okay, for Infosys, we definitely double direction, so dual direction. So globally, there is the board of directors, the CEO, the management, they believe in this, and then they say that, you know, every country, we need to have a representative, that's me in Singapore, for this particular segment. So that's top down. And bottoms up is, in reality, every country is different. Every country's differently abled people need different type of attention. Like for us in Singapore, accessibility, I say, is there. So we need to really make use of that. For my colleagues in other countries, maybe they don't have that luxury. Whereas in Singapore, I have a different problem. My colleagues in India, for example, don't have the same problem. They have a lot of people who are focusing and learning and studying in tech. In Singapore, nobody wants to learn tech. So my problem in Singapore is, even though I want to hire, I don't have the pool to select from because I'm very limited to technology. So I think that's my challenge.
Similarly to Stella, I think for us it's a global push and also a ground-up push as well. Every location we actually would have what we call a DEI champion, yeah, both at the global level, regional level, and also at the country level. So it's everybody's topic, I would say. But I would say challenges when we are seeing countries that have slower progress. Education and awareness is definitely number one. As what you have mentioned, you know, very often people associate, you know, or not realize that what's the definition of disability. You know, they typically think disability is tagged to something physical. Yeah, creating that awareness is super important. That's something that we spend a lot of effort and initiative to educate our colleagues around the world and making them realize the fact that there's no difference. Too, you know, there is maybe certain jobs might have limitations, but most jobs would not. And for those jobs that do not, then let's, you know, have that awareness around how can we be there to support. I think that's something that we do a lot on. The other piece that we see, just give me a second. I did take notes because I'm still jet lagged. The other piece that we also say is the disclosure piece. Yeah. Aside to being physical, most non-physical disability, it's many are still uncomfortable about sharing or disclosing. So we do a lot of storytelling internally within the organization, having our colleagues who have been able to be comfortable in disclosing, share their stories and share their successes as well, to encourage and use that as a catalyst for us. I think that's been a very big success in many of the markets that we have seen, you know, having those support as well. We have a very interesting program which is a collaboration with Nestle called NXL in the Middle East, where we are actually supporting students who have disability to also participate. Yeah, and we actually recruited someone in my team, you know, with the disability to actually support us organize the entire event and program as well, which is really, really successful.
So I also take this opportunity to do a little bit of advertisement. So when you think of technologists, right, you think of someone who has the earphones on, hide in a dark room and then code away, right? It's actually true. So I would like to encourage people who, you know, enjoy that kind of work environment to in their own home, in their own room, focus on the task for 2 days, to just, you know, do that. And all the way, we have roles all the way from hardcore coders that code robots that can walk around and serve food, and all the way to testers. So what testers do, basically whatever has been coded by someone, all the tester need to do is to go and click it. It's just like testing a game. You just try to play the game and prove that it works. So all the way to this kind of roles, there's a range of roles in technology. So I would suggest anyone here in the audience, if you would help me pass this message along, technology is a very good profession.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. I think even our team of recruiters is like very clearly listening in. So that's great to hear. And as Agnes was sharing, I think it's very insightful to hear your thoughts as well. I think education and awareness is the way to go because there's so much for all of us to learn. To be very honest, I'm disabled and I'm still learning so much about my own disability. So I think it's a great step to at least try, ask questions if you don't know. And I think there's no right or wrong as long as we are willing to learn and we're willing to try to make that effort to make that change. So, yeah.
Maybe I just add one more thing that it's an observation that we have on our journey as well. The work ecosystem has to be fairly inclusive as well, and it starts actually right from the leaders as well. They need to make sure that they are there to be supportive. So there's a lot of effort that we do. You know, when I had one of my team members coming to me and saying that, hey, look, you know, I like to declare to you confidentially, this is my problem. And I would need support. And we discuss around how comfortable the individual is to share with the broader team, because the individual do need some support. Because there will be good days and bad days, and on the bad days, what do we do? You know, it's not a physical disability, but it is a disability that others needs some sort of understanding towards, it's those days that you need that support. And as a manager myself, I need that support too, you know, because the team members will also need to understand the consideration of, hey, you know, why is my manager have this favor to this specific individual, but it is not about a favoritism topic. It's because the individual really need that support, you know, that special attention to ensure that the individual is well supported to still do their work well at the workplace. So it is a topic that we actually as an organization spend a lot of time also supporting the whole ecosystem to come to that realization.
Can I add on a bit,
Sure,
a bit
please
to
go
that?
ahead.
Yeah, I mean, although this question was directed to both of them, but yeah, I mean, I think we talk a lot about a top-down approach so far, and definitely, you know, the top-down helps, you know, because we incorporated 3.5 years ago, and I over the years I felt the positive developments in inclusivity efforts. Not just that in the awareness, I think through social media and various campaigns also, and I think it has been very helpful because look, even for myself with a family member that has a disability that's not physical, it didn't even immediately come to my mind that, you know, there are other conditions like autism and ADHD. So that's one thing. So the top-down approach is very helpful, and continual efforts will be, of course, required. But I think within the community, we can call it either a community level approach or a bottom-up approach. I think it's equally important because, you know, look, the best safety net that all of us have without any delay are the people who are, the immediate members around us, right? Be it the family or friends, you know. So actually, strong social support is also required for all these efforts to be successfully recognized. Which is what I mean by the community or the bottom-up approach. Of course, bottom-up, you know, we can try to raise things to people who make the decisions, but community-based approach requires more of like, you know, I care for my neighbors, I care for my friends, and this kind of thing. I think it's really, really helpful for the success of individuals.
And you will be very surprised, like what ideas that the community would come up with, you know, once the awareness is there. You know, you have individuals coming up with, you know, hey, you know, this has been a challenge for the team. Can we actually do more? You know, and there's actually more efforts coming from the community once they have that awareness.
True. I think it's a lot to do with collective collaboration and then just working together to create like safe environments for not just people with disabilities, but everyone together, you know, is everyone doing okay at work? It's checking in on each other and making sure we are creating that safe environment for everyone. And I guess that's truly what inclusion is. And that is why it's good to hear all your different insights. So, moving on to the next question. This one is directed to you, Yuning. So, as a startup and SME, SGP's Foods needs considerations and like the business structure is very different from the MNCs. Can you share with us some of your key learnings across your journey and how you balance between delivering business and maintaining like social impact as well?
I think what's important is to be able to integrate this inclusive employment into our culture, and I mean, of course, social impact is not just about inclusive employment, but, for example, corporate social responsibility, giving back, or, what you call the ESG nowadays, environmental, social, and governance. So, I mean, because we are focused on food and climate, that's why, and we are a for-profit business. So we actually do need to think very hard and carefully about how are we going to balance all these objectives. So I think the important part of it is for whatever initiative we have to be sustainable and for the long term. So of course, definitely we need to come up with a business model that works out, which means that fulfilling the impact goals, but also making sure that we take care of the environment and the social aspects. So in terms of inclusive employment, the key to it is to be able to integrate it into our company's culture, right? So I believe in a culture of caring and sharing. So these include areas like knowledge transfer, so sharing our past experiences with one another. Because, I mean, look, it's always faster to learn from someone who has been through the journey than to knock into walls. Besides that, also, I think the culture of collaboration is very important, especially sharing the information that we have so that collectively, I mean, based on division of labor, everyone focuses on what they're good at or what they tend to be stronger at. Of course, we provide training for those, especially the newcomers, to get up to speed to what we are doing also. So, but fundamentally for inclusive employment, it has to be part of the company culture. And I think increasingly, especially for the younger people also, they want to feel that the employers care about them genuinely. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. I agree. I guess people with disabilities do want to feel like the employers care and they're making a genuine effort to include them in the workspace and do more. Okay, so I will go on to the next question. So this question is back to all of you, so y'all can take it to whoever wants to. Are there any current and future plans or initiatives to grow or deepen disability inclusion in your organization that you can share with all of us?
So we mentioned that we have this big 2% global target that is being represented. We actually also have a much bigger workforce with our partners that actually have. I think Inclus work with Bolloré, which is our key partner here in logistics, and it's as part of our partnership. They also have that extended focus on disability recruitment as well. I think, one of the key things that we are expecting, at least from the region that I'm covering, that we will meet this goal in every market, and we are actually working on very tangible projects in each of our markets to ensure that, this inclusive recruitment is part of the consideration, and we do make it happen.
So I mean, firstly, I am quite impressed with the model that Inclus has. I think in particular, the accessibility of, I mean, from our perspective, solutions or services like this really helps. Because, I mean, what I've witnessed over the years in general is that, okay, look, sometimes policies are out there and regulations are in place, but if it's not easy for people to actually access it, then, fewer people will actually uptake. So I think, firstly, the communication with organizations like Inclus, in terms of the accessibility, the kind of speed and the effectiveness is very important. So of course, if we are really looking at inclusivity, leveraging inclusivity to solve manpower crunch, then I think there might need to be more organizations like this. Because I think the kind of reception from, I believe Inclus is not the only one, but the reception from various organizations is different, and we do need to get everyone up to speed in terms of the accessibility. On top of that, the Ministry of Education has been doing quite a good job in terms of publicizing, what it actually means to be what it actually means to be disabled, or and various types of conditions. And I think mental health has been one of the priorities of our government these days also. So I think these are very good efforts, and it shouldn't be just the ideals of a political leader who tries to do this, but it should be carried on generations after generations. Yeah.
So at Infosys, I'm driving 3 work streams. So the first work stream is internship opportunities. So this is immediate. Any qualified graduates who are interested may apply, and we will take interns on immediately. The second work stream is mentorship. So for any individual already working for someone else, if they would like a second opinion, someone very senior to guide them on their career path, they're actually given this opportunity to apply with us, and we will assign them a senior person in Infosys to guide them on their career, provide them with support, provide them with a viewpoint on what is right and wrong. Sometimes individuals may receive feedback from maybe a junior manager and not really sure the direction. So we will provide that coaching and guidance. On the third work stream, I have also launched a series of workshops. So these workshops, the more sexy one is where we do social media marketing. So we have an in-house expert on social media marketing. She would devote her time to conducting workshops, to helping differently abled individuals who are interested in such program to learn. The reason why I thought this was a cute idea is because, being differently abled, you have a different point of view from the 5 out of 6 people in the world. So you are 1 out of 6 person, you have a different point of view. I want to be able to support such individuals in making their world known to others, so that through social media they're able to share more of how other people could help them. The other workshop that we have going is on corporate awareness. So all graduates, including myself, we come out of school a little bit blur. We don't know how to write emails properly. We don't know who to address, who to copy, who not to copy. And all graduates, able or differently able, all come out blur. It's the same across. But what we're going to do is we're going to help the differently abled or disabled individuals to get a head start. So we have 10 sessions coaching them on how to succeed in the workforce, so that they are one step ahead of their peers. So these are the 3 channels I'm driving for this year.
Maybe just to add one,
Go ahead,
just to promote what we do a little bit more. It's about 2 years ago, we launched with our Chief Digital and Marketing Officers team itself, together with IT, legal, and purchasing. We actually launched what we call a Global Digital Accessibility Task Force. And that's something that we work to promote awareness around and also compliance around digital awareness. And that's also covered by our DEI team, that they will also be very part of this to drive the relevant programs, trainings, etc., not just for within the employees, but also with the partners that we work with. That includes universities and all as well.
Yeah, I think just to add on one last thing, I think it would be cool to remind everyone that I'm also a young person. So in fact, when I say young people, I'm not talking about, firstly, people my age, I'm the last year of millennials, but people younger I'm the last year of millennials, so-called. So there are a lot of people younger than me already, from schools doing internship or, in the workforce for a few years already. So, and actually, around 2 years ago, even for me, I had to take some time to really adjust to the new style of work, what the young people expect, and also to be able to bridge the gap and communication with them, So I would say definitely for sure, a lot of young people these days, they appreciate guidance. And but I think it should go both ways. I mean, if someone younger than me has knowledge to share with me, I'd be happy to take in and learn from them also. So yeah, just to add on that.
Thank you so much for sharing all your plans. I think it is very encouraging to hear all your plans because it's going to create so much more opportunities for the community. And yeah, we're taking note on everything that we heard today. So I'm down to my last question for the panel before we open up to the audience for questions. The idea of disability employment or beginning a journey in disability inclusion can definitely feel very daunting to some. And disability inclusion can also mean different things to different organizations. There are also very practical concerns coming from organizations and the careers of individuals to actually push for disability inclusion. So, can I tap on your experience and wisdom of everyone to share some advice for anyone who is considering or trying to begin their disability inclusion journey?
I have the answer, so I go first. So, I think for the very first step, I would say make sure, like what Yun Ning has mentioned, arm yourself with the right partners, the knowledge, the advisors, and be prepared that there are actually challenges. The road is not going to be very easy, but as long as you recognize that what the challenges would be, and where are the support that you can also get from, I think that would be the right first step to do. At L'Oreal, we have 7 recommendations for any markets when we start and launch any DEI initiative. The first one is really around educating our employees on the topic itself. So the definition of what disability is, because there is really no set definition around it. The other piece is engage all employees, making sure that they are comfortable to talk about it. The storytelling, as I've mentioned earlier, the partnership that we work with experts. As an organization, we are now the chair for the International Labour Organization on DEI as the topic since 2021. We also make sure that there is enough support provided to the employees that join us that need support on this topic itself. Having the active listening, being there to be able to support, that's also very critical for the success of the program. And also accessibility, which is making sure if it's something that is physical, we need to make sure that our workplace needs to be able to support it. If it's not, we actually take steps to work with our facilities team to make sure that the safety and the environment is there to be able to include that. And also, it's a long-term commitment. It's not something that we start this year because it's something fancy. It's something that we need to continuously doing year after year, year after year. So if you are trained this year on this topic, it does not mean that next year you exclude yourself from training. You still get trained because there is always a new topic for us to learn because, learning, it's continuous learning all, for us.
Okay. So training was mentioned just. I will talk about the opposite end of it, which is equally important also. So it's kind of like coming from the perspective of having safeguards, okay? Because I think these days, honestly, even in our Singapore society, bullying and harassment are quite huge over here. And, my own view is that firstly, if you decide to do this to other people, in what place are you in the first place to be doing that, Okay, so, but bullying and harassment is very fundamental. It's just not right. And if society continues to be like that, then I would say this whole inclusivity thing is we are still far from reaching the target that we need to get to. And that's actually what I mean by the whole of community effort. Because you actually, like we mentioned, you need to give people a safe space for them to flourish and perform. And you need to be, we need to be supportive of one another. If you decide to do this to someone else, okay, you're just going to get it back. As simple as that. That is how karma works. Yeah.
The question is for organization that wants to start a inclusive program, what they should do, right? So my opinion is that if you want to start a program, you need to appoint someone to lead the program. And this appointment of the person is very important. After the Industrial Revolution, we all want to standardize and make sure things are sustainable and can work. And you want to put in an operational model which sort of make everything work. But for this program, there is no such thing. Every individual is different. Every individual has different needs. You can't just say, I want to do a disability program, this is going to be what I do, A, B, C, D. This individual must be someone who understands that every single person the company reaches out to is different and unique, and the program has to be tailor-made. So this person cannot be someone who wants numbers, who look at numbers. I have a lecturer in NUS social work, my first social work lecturer. The first day she walked into the room, she told us she was in a program, and then the person came to her and said, oh, we are only 20% successful. Should we kill this program? And then she said, no, we help 2 individuals out of 10, and that is 2 individuals, 2 success. Right? If you don't do it at all, you don't even have 2 success. So I think, appointing the right person with the right mindset to do this, who is not afraid of numbers, I think is very important.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think what Stella says is really true. I think the awareness and the consistency itself needs to be continuously there. You need someone quite courageous, because the road is not easy. It's something that the awareness needs to be there, and you need to keep on championing on it. So that passion of any DEI lead is super important.
I think these are interesting points raised by the 3 of us, and I think it's important for us as employers and for those of you who are in the audience and watching also to actually think about the steps needed to kind of set up in our organization to be able to achieve this task. So in other words, it's turning ideas into reality. How are we actually going to do that? A step-by-step process. Yeah.
Thank you all so much for sharing all your thoughts. I think the audience has definitely benefited from this conversation. And like y'all were mentioned, I guess the leaders are important. And I think each one of us, okay, the wind is interrupting my thoughts, and the mic, but I've covered it. So yeah, I think, sorry. I hope it's not too disruptive for the audience, but I think the leaders are very important, and I guess each one of us can be a leader in an organization itself and encourage everyone to work together to make those environments inclusive enough. So I think I really, truly enjoyed this conversation that we had. I'm not sure if we lost track of time or where we are at, but okay, so we're good. So perfect.